So, it's that time of the year again. 20 games left in the regular season, and it's time for the NBA community to do their favorite pastime. Get in front of a camera, microphone, or grab your cell phone, hop on Twitter, and argue religiously about who should win the MVP this year. The amount of
I'm stopping the video already because one thing that I will never do is hop on Twitter and have fucking debates about the MVP or about who the GOAT is or virtually about anything basketball, because on Twitter is nothing but trolls and people with extreme biases. And I'm one of them niggas with extreme biases. So I don't even jump into that realm of trying to debate my opinion. Like, I have my opinion, I say my opinion. If I feel like my opinion is worth the video, I'll make a video about it. I don't go on Twitter, I don't go on Instagram, I don't go on Facebook, I don't type up paragraphs upon paragraphs about who should win MVP. That's just not what I do. I just wanted to make, I would never do that. Ever do that.
Around this time of the season, oh man, it just fills me up with joy. And this year is no different. Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid have found themselves as the top 3 candidates in the race. And honestly, all 3 of them have really good arguments. All 3 of those players are having historically great seasons from a production standpoint while being on some of the best teams in the NBA, so their value is pretty undeniable. However, everyone doesn't feel this way, especially when it comes to Nikola Jokic.
When it comes down to guys winning,
this nigga Perkins was smoking. He was smoking when he said this.
That won the MVP that wasn't top 10 in scoring.
No. I refuse to talk about that Kendrick Perkins take on this channel. But I did so on my second, so make sure you go check that out, link in the description. Nevertheless, when it comes to Jokic in a vacuum, someone who's averaging a 24-point triple-double while having a historically great offensive season, while also being on the #1 seed in the Western Conference, is normally a no-brainer. But what makes this controversial is when you open up the lens and realize that Jokic will be winning his 3rd MVP in the row, making him the first player to accomplish this since Larry Bird in the mid-80s, which certainly is going to raise some eyebrows. How is it that someone like Jokic is able to pull this off when other all-time greats such as LeBron James and Michael Jordan were not able to, especially when there is a growing belief throughout NBA history that players had not been able to accomplish said feat due to voter fatigue or lack of playoff success that seems to not be applicable to Jokic this year. And of course, when there's this amount of dialogue and conversation around the MVP, there's a bunch of other talking points that have to be addressed as well. So with that being said, let's tackle this head on.
Let's do it. What do you got to say, Lo?
The league, the inconsistency in goalposts moving potentially from certain voters, and more importantly, should Jokic win the MVP?
All right, so literally my last video I made, it was 2 videos ago. I don't even remember. I believe it was 2 videos ago. I made a video talking about how Giannis has a case for MVP and he should be a lot closer than, I'm not talking about, I had a comment, somebody said, you're making this video, and it was a good comment, by the way. I'm not like dogging the comment or whatever. He was like, you're making this video and you said that Giannis needs to, like, you're making this video because you want to have more attention being put on Giannis's season. And he was like, well, he's been top 3 all year. Yes, Giannis has been top 3, and that's more so for like the NBA voters, like whoever votes for the NBA, whatever journalists or analysts vote for the NBA, fine. But like, if you look on Twitter, if you look on any type of social media throughout the year, Giannis has been kind of like put under a rock these last couple of months, or this entire season in general. And that video was just for that. But like I said in that video, if Nikola Jokic wins his 3rd MVP this season, he absolutely deserves that MVP. I wasn't trying to take anything away from him in that video. If he wins this year and he wins his 3rd MVP in a row, he deserves it. Point blank, period. Point blank, period.
Before we get into the video, there are 3 things that I have to highlight. A, the NBA media has not always been the one who has selected the MVP. Before 1981, the players had the responsibility of determining who was going to be deemed the most valuable player.
And I think they should do that again.
Now, in theory, it sounds great. Who knows better than the actual players themselves on who's the most valuable?
He about to debunk what I just said.
However, when we actually go back to see who was winning the award on a year-to-year basis, well, let's just say there was a lot of goalposts moving back in the day. B, and I can't believe I have to say this, the MVP is voted on before the playoffs begin. The amount of times I've been on my timeline and I have seen people make arguments about the MVP what happened in that year's playoff run is mind-blowing.
Yeah, that's stupid. That's idiotic.
To know how poorly someone's going to perform
MVP is a regular season award. I hate when people talk about postseason performances. It does not matter. MVP is and will always be a regular season award. Please stop bringing up postseason stats and postseason attributes when we talk about MVP. Nikola Jokic not making it to a Western Conference Finals should not be a reason why he shouldn't win MVP this year. Giannis, the last couple of years before he won the championship, him being knocked out in the first round should have not been the reason why he didn't win MVP. It is a regular season award. Stop it.
Form in the playoffs, or how deep someone is going to go in the playoffs if the playoffs have not yet started. And finally, just because you have more voters believing that you should win the award does not necessarily mean you will receive the MVP trophy. When it comes to the voting process, the voters have the responsibility to select 5 candidates, and then of those 5 candidates, they have to rank them amongst one another. And then after they rank them, and depending on where you are placed, will determine how many MVP points you will receive. And once it's all said and done, league officials gather up all the ballots.
I didn't know this. That's interesting.
And whoever has the most MVP points will be deemed the MVP. Yeah, I know this all sounds very complicated, but trust me, later on in the video, this information will be very important. Now, with that out of the way, we can address the elephant in the room, and that is, what does it mean to be the most valuable player in the NBA? This has been an ongoing conversation for several years now, so what I decided to do was take some talking points and see if there's any correlation amongst the players who receive the MVP on a year-to-year basis. First, does the MVP belong to the best player in the league? I want to get this one out the way as quick as possible because it's very easy to debunk, and the answer is obviously no. I hate when people use this talking point in these conversations because it's so obvious that the MVP.
Now, as much as I don't like it, Derrick Rose winning in 2011, he clearly wasn't the best player in the league. LeBron James was. LeBron James has been the best player in the league probably from late 2000s, probably 2016, 2017, around that time. Giannis has been the best player in the league since I want to say around 2019, 2020. Kobe was the best player in the league. I mean, honestly, when Steve Nash won his MVPs, was Kobe the best player in the league, or was it like Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett? But what I'm trying to basically, the best player in the league, he rarely gets the MVP award. It's mostly for the best performance season. That's all it is.
Is not the best player in the league award because we have a near endless examples proving otherwise.
So Westbrook,
Rose, Dirk, Iverson, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, Dave Cowens, just to name a few, are great examples of players receiving the awards when they were not viewed as the best player in said year. How about having two-way impacts and statistical standards that have been set in place to determine who should be named MVP? This essentially is an argument that Perkins and many other people that I see make against Jokic, questioning his value due to his defensive limitations, and even going as far as to question Dirk and Nash. Now, to an extent, there is some truth behind this.
I do question,
there has to be a level of statistical.
But the only reason I question defense is because another one of the top, well, basically 2 of the 3 top MVP or top MVP placements right now, they're statistically better on defense than Nikola Jokic. Eye test wise, they're 1,000 times better than Nikola Jokic on the defensive end. That's why because an MVP race has never been this close, in my opinion. I feel like each individual person is having a historical season offensively. Offensively, they are doing great things for big men, and all 3 of them are big men as well, which is another thing. So you have 3 big men who are equally having the same amount of historic performance on the offensive end. So the only thing left to look at would be defense. So that's why I'm so heavy on the Nikola Jokic, defensive side of him not winning MVP, if that makes sense,
Excellence that one needs to meet to really display.
Because in 2011, Derrick Rose has never been a great defender. LeBron James was obviously a better defender than him in 2011. So,
And when it comes to defensive impact, that can without a doubt sway voters in one direction rather than the other. However, the problem with these arguments is that it focuses on what a player lacks rather than the actual value that they provide. When making the case for Jokic, of course, it's going to be more offensive leaning because that's what makes him valuable. And the same concept goes for players such as Nash and Magic. Questioning their scoring impact is pointless because we all know their value is primarily based on what they do from a passing and playmaking standpoint. And because of that, it's the reason why I really don't like this argument, because the people who use it are doing it in bad faith. Or what about the take X player off of X team argument that many people rely on? The
I don't like that either. That's stupid.
Valuable a candidate can be due to the dependency of his teammates due to their lack of talent. And I have to be honest, there is some validity to this argument. Not only because there are voters who
I don't like that. That's stupid
when they cast their ballot, but also having a teammate that is too talented could certainly hurt one's case. The best example of this is in 1972, where Jerry West finished second in the MVP race despite the fact that he was on a 69-win ball club, but that's because the voters had a hard time differentiating who was more valuable for the Lakers, Jerry West or Wilt Chamberlain. And because of that, they split votes amongst one another, which allowed Kareem to be named MVP. But even with that valid information, there's still way more recipients that would point in another direction. Not only because there are several MVP recipients who were playing alongside very talented teammates, such as LeBron in Miami when he was playing alongside Wade and Bosh, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, and Dennis Johnson were Larry Bird's teammates when he won 3 in a row. Magic Johnson and Kareem played alongside one another when they won their MVPs, as well as sharing the floor with really talented teammates like James Worthy, Norm Nixon, and Jamal Wilkes. But by far the best example that really puts this ideology into question is Moses Malone in 1983 winning the MVP after joining a Sixers team that was so talented that in a year before, they were in the NBA Finals. But the biggest reason why it's really hard to rely on this ideology is because it's all based in hypotheticals. With the hypothetical nature of this ideology, quickly you can find yourself on a very slippery slope. Because technically speaking, if you took Michael Jordan off the Chicago Bulls, they were still a great defensive unit that won 55 games and made the playoffs. So are you then going to question the validity behind MJ's MVPs? Yeah, I highly doubt it. So if none of those have been the true standard to determine who is the most valuable player, then what has been? Well, after doing some extensive research, there are only 2 consistent factors dating all the way back to 1956 to determine who should win the MVP. The first one is games played. Every player to receive an MVP has played at bare minimum 85% of the games.
I think I saw a statistic saying that no player that's won MVP has missed more than 11 games. And so far on the season, Giannis has missed 15, Joel Embiid has missed 11, and Nikola Jokic has missed 8 games. So even right there, like I said, I feel like Nikola Jokic is going to win MVP this season. Right there, that's one of the reasons he has 8 missed games compared to the other guys that have double-digit missed games. Let's see what's the other thing.
During their year that they won the award, except for 1978, where Bill Walton won the MVP after only playing 58 games.
Damn,
hey,
was that a lockout?
Is on to something, but outside of Bill Walton, everyone else played at bare minimum 85%, which during a normal 82-game regular season is 70 games. And the second consistent factor that voters have been voting on has been winning. Like it or not, the team record of a candidate means a lot.
As it should.
68 times the NBA has handed out the MVP award. 62 of the recipients have been on top 3 records in their respective
non-top 3. I know Russell Westbrook. How
important winning has been for voters over the years. Let's go back to the 1990 MVP.
Who else would it be?
Where despite the fact that
Charles Barkley
had great numbers across the board, led a lesser team to one of the top 3 seeds in his conference, and even had more first place votes, he still lost the race to Magic Johnson. Now, unfortunately, there isn't any concrete evidence that points us to the
it was Magic.
This occurred. However, one could easily come to a conclusion that even though Barkley might have had more first place votes, there were
63 and 19
2 candidates because of the Sixers' record in contrast to the Bulls and Lakers. So yes, it's undeniable. Winning does matter. But obviously, I have to admit, in recent history, that's certainly changed. Now, why do I say that? Well, let's look at the exceptions to the rules. The players who won the MVP, but were not top 3 seeds in their conferences. Bob Pettit in 56.
It's all old niggas. Bob Pettit, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Moses Malone twice. And back-to-back seasons? No, he had a gap. Russ, and then Nikola Jokic last year. I forgot he
Then
was the
after
4th
that,
seed
it took
last
over
year.
30 years
Or was
for
he he was like the 4th or the 5th seed last year.
seed and Russell Westbrook, and did it again a few years later in Nikola Jokic. And it doesn't stop there. Last season, the Phoenix Suns not only won a franchise best, but also a league high 64 games. When Devin Booker was named first team All-NBA as he averaged 27 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, as well as a steal, but received 0 first place votes in the MVP
Wow.
race, which is the first time that has ever happened for a player who made the first team All-NBA to be on a 60-win ball club and not even be considered to win the MVP. And honestly, the voters got it right. Even though, yes, what we have seen in recent history has been inconsistent to what the traditional ideology is for an MVP, I honestly believe that this has been the most accurate representation of MVP recipients in NBA history. And quite honestly, all of this makes sense when you put things into its proper context. Back in the day with media members and players, when they were voting on who should be the MVP, they had very little information to their disposal. At best, you would turn on ESPN and view a couple of highlights, see the numbers, and then before that, you would have to open up a newspaper and actually look at the stat line and figure out
A newspaper, ew, a newspaper.
on winning bias and just simple points, rebounds, and assists metrics. But in today's world, that's much more different. In the age of information, where games are more accessible than they have ever been, there's much more open dialogue in terms of the concept of what it means to be valuable.
Come on, show me, show me, show me.
Like
show one of my videos. No! Come on, Lo. Watch one of my videos.
Actually means. So instead of us using articles about taking X player off of X team, we can just look at what the team's record is when that player is not available and look at how well they produce when he's on the floor versus when he's off. Instead of us being overly dependent on blocks per game, we can actually see what opposing teams shoot in the field when
and when not. Yes.
And instead of us
Bro, how does he find the stats? My last video, I was trying to find these stats to make my case. Like, look at Giannis' opponent percentage at the rim when he is on the court. 53% compared to 68% by Jokic and 61. Bro, where does he find these stats? I was looking for so long to get these stats. I was looking on StatMuse. I was looking on Basketball Reference. I was looking on NBA.com. Where does he get these? I could not find. Hey, and that's why Lo got 300,000 subscribers and I'm still pushing for 300 because he can find these stats. Bro, I was looking so hard for this because I look at stats. Yes, looking at stats for face value, blocks per game, steals per game, points per game, that is great. But what I wanted to look for and what I feel like you should look for is probably like how many times an opponent scores on a specific defender. Like how many times does Giannis get scored on? Like how many times does Anthony Edwards score on Giannis per game when he gets a switch? Or how many times does Jonas Valanciunas score on Nikola Jokic when he has the matchup in the paint? That's what you should look at instead of just looking at blocks and steals for face value to actually kind of decide on if that person's a good defender or not. And for the life of me, I swear to you, I was looking for like 30 minutes. I could not find these stats. But Legend of Winning, he got him. Legend of Winning got him.
Player is protecting the basket. And instead of us using field goal percentage, we actually have other metrics such as true shooting percentage and effective field goal percentage to determine.
I don't know much about true shooting.
Score someone is. And because of this new information, I do believe it gives us a more accurate representation of someone is. And because of this new information,
let me stop.
To be the most valuable player. Now, of course, traditionalists don't want to hear this, and many of them would argue that Jokic shouldn't win his 3rd in a row because it didn't happen to LeBron or Jordan, or Jokic should not have won it last season as a 6th seed because it wasn't given to Kobe in 2006. To those people, I would respond in the most respectful way I possibly can, and that is, stop being dumb. So arguing that we should succumb to bad decision-making mistakes because the people before us fell victim to them is irrational. And due to that unjarring truth to many people, it's the reason why we have new precedents being set. It's the reason why in the 2015 finals, even though the Cavaliers lost, LeBron still received very strong consideration to be deemed finals MVP. It's the reason why a year later, Curry became the first unanimous MVP. It's the reason why a year after that, Westbrook won the MVP while being a 6th seed. It's the reason why 2 years ago, Jokic won the award while also being a 6th seed.
I thought it was a 6th seed. I thought they were the 4th seed.
Finished third in the MVP race, despite the fact that the Warriors didn't even make the playoffs. And with all of that being said, I now answer the question that I know people want me to answer. That is, who is my MVP? And my response is, bro, we still have 15 games left. Like I stated in the beginning of this video, Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid all have very quality arguments to be made. So much so that I believe that the race is extremely close.
It is.
But if you must know, I have Jokic number 1, Giannis 2nd, and Embiid 3rd. And Giannis number 1. Argument as of late.
Giannis number 1.
For the MVP.
He's the fucking GOAT.
Like
Giannis is the GOAT.
But hey, those are just my thoughts. If you ever wonder why I'm not
Hey man, Lo makes great videos, bro. I don't know. It's something about the way Lo makes his videos is just it's crazy. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. Him and Rusty Buckets, top two. I still stick with what I said in my previous video. Like what he said, you can't just talk about what players are bad at, what they lack in, because what he does on the offensive end is like what people say for Curry. Curry's offense is his defense. and I think kind of sort of it plays the same role for Nikola Jokic. But like I said, all three of these people are having amazing statistical seasons, historical statistical seasons on the offensive end of the ball. So then when you have a player that's as dominant on the offensive end, but then can still be even more dominant on the defensive end and still have the better record in the NBA, I feel like that should kind of put Giannis over Jokic. Just a little bit. I mean, Jokic is averaging a triple-double, but Giannis, offense, defense, and the number 1 seed in the league. Like Lo said, we have 15 games left. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. If you did like the video, comment, subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Peace out.